started, right? It's just a presentation.
Yeah, it's 5:33. Got him.
Mayor, you tell me when you're ready, and we'll get started. Yeah, they'll be here. We made it a little bit earlier, so.
Let it rip. I don't know where, they got the memo, so it's 5:33.
Okay. Hello, Jessica.
Hey.
Nice and quiet. Yeah, the pictures are slowing down the printing.
Got it?
They're in color. We don't have a color copier. All right.
Yeah.
This was cool. At NAOG, they moved it. It's unbelievable. I bet you that thing would cost 50 grand to build today.
Wipe, oh, I bet.
I do.
Sure. Hey, Tom.
Just waiting for a couple things to be printed. Yes, yes. Yesterday, but Tom was talking to her, I don't know if she had anything back. We're ready. Ready? Call the meeting to order. Mayor Cognetti, Eileen, Cipriani, and Matt Domines to present and go over your moderating budget.
Thank you, Council President Smurl. Good evening, Council and public. Hello, Ms. Hodawana. We are excited to present the 2025 budget to City Council and to the public. We have really continued to focus on financial stewardship and also safety. So you'll see on the financial stewardship side at the top line, of course, being that there's no tax increase in this budget. There's no refuse fee increase in this budget. We have a lot of good news on the tax and finance side. We were not needing to take out a TRAN this year, same as 2024. We didn't need to take out that loan for the beginning of the year as we had in previous years. Through our tenure, we've been able to we were able to reduce the TRAN on an ongoing basis, but then in 2024 did not have the need for that, and we continue to have the ability to not go do that transaction in 2025. That it shows good cash flow. It also saves us a little bit in financing fees. The safety piece, we continue to invest in many things, which we'll show you tonight and throughout the other hearings. But the most important thing, of course, being we are proposing to add 5 provisional police officers in this budget. Those are the only new positions that you see in this budget. Of course, revenue, always important to talk about when we're looking at the budget. We have continued to see steady growth in the earned income tax. That number, almost 36 million, is many, many millions more than it was previously when we started. So part of that is because wages have gone up for people, but it's also we've seen more people start businesses. We've seen people moving in. We've seen folks redeveloping buildings and making them into new housing. So we're really encouraged by that earned income tax number. It's very important to us. We've also seen what we were hoping to over these years, improved payroll prep tax collection. So while it was took a lot and took City Council, it took then the next year, the school board, the district, took time to get it to where we are now. But Matt Domines, Eileen Cipriani, and our legal team, in addition to Pat Laffey at the school district, have been able to get this up and rolling. And I'm very happy that we're where we want to be, where people understand this is the tax now. Tax collector Wexler continues to go after those delinquent business privilege mercantile taxes. Going after those delinquencies has really ramped up. Solicitor Joe O'Brien continues to work with tax collector Wexler on that. So we're still, dealing with getting those and trying to make sure we have fairness in collecting that past tax, but moving forward, not having that unfair tax is really helpful. As always, we see a decrease in the real estate revenues, a variety of reasons for that. That's why the county is undertaking reassessment. We are looking at, some potential transactions potential transaction that would reduce the real estate tax revenue by around $850,000. We've planned for that. We've assumed that sale will go through in this budget. Not sure what will happen, but we've assumed that. So, we've assumed that decrease.
When it comes to that, so you're projecting about an $835,000 loss when it comes to the real estate tax. Where are we with the HUP test, and do we see us making up any of that through finding nonprofits that may need to pay taxes at this point in time?
Well, so currently, we're waiting on the county. The county is going to send out letters to nonprofits. I think that was one of the questions that was asked for this week. So we're waiting on the county to get those letters out. They should be going out relatively soon. They need to verify that this is the county process through their tax assessor's office. They need to verify that these entities are truly nonprofits.
And that's the county that's actually sending out the letters?
Yes, it's the county's responsibility.
So, I mean, the company that we've hired to look into each of these entities, they're not going to be involved in the letters or the drafting of
They
the
were
letters, anything like
involved
that?
in identifying the properties that did not have the documentation that was needed, so that went back to the county for their management.
Okay, so they send those out. Does that company look, I see Matt's jumping on this one. Do they, what other work do they do to find whether the company?
Well, they got the assessed value, or all the non-taxable, the whole list. There was veterans, nonprofits, and businesses. And what they ended up, to find evidence to support that they deserve their taxable, non-taxable, I guess, sobriquet. But the nonprofits that the county had did not have the backup evidence for a significant amount. I think probably make 150 entities. So we can't verify, Rudolph and Clerk, who is the contractor working for the city, cannot verify that they are legitimately on the non-taxable payroll until they get that information, because the county didn't have it. So it's kind of and that's the county's responsibility. They designate who's taxable and who's not taxable. That's not a city responsibility. So they're the ones sending out the letter, and we did work with them to draft some of the letter, but it's their responsibility to send out the letter.
And the company that we contracted with to do it, so Rudolph Clark,
Rudolph Clark, right.
At this point in time, are they completed with what we've hired them to do? Or
No.
there's-
No, they're in holding pattern right now.
Until this information gets received by the assessor's office and they can verify, our contractor can verify that these are, but they don't have that evidence now. On the veterans and a lot of the other entities, they had that evidence that they were able to say, okay, but when it came to the nonprofits, they kind of got hung up on this. And so that's kind of where we're at.
So, just to clarify, so the company that was hired to do the work has passed it off based on the criteria, not passed it off, but
It's a
gave it to the county
Yeah.
to, to clarify or whatever. But is there any others that haven't been potentially identified? Or as the list, you said there's some documentation and there's some that they need the county through the assessment process to determine. So did they identify like at least every potential nonprofit that we could probably?
Yeah, the rest of the list that we got from non-taxable from the assessor's office is pretty clean. It's just really these nonprofits that we're having an issue with. But like I said, it's a decent amount of numbers, about 150 entities. So until they get that, and it's not really passing it off. It's not we didn't hire
I didn't mean
Rudolph
that,
Clark.
but-
It's their response. It's a statutory function for the assessor's
The
office
final
to do
piece.
this. Yeah, and we're trying to get it. Believe me, I've been on these guys to get this going.
Is that a large percentage that have to go to the county or no?
Excuse me?
Is it a large percentage of the 150 that have to go to the county?
Go to the county?
It's all of them, that they need to get the documentation
Oh,
for
for
those.
all of them?
It's all of them.
I thought you said some of the information. Okay.
No, but
That's
it's like
clear.
for veterans and residential, like ones that were legitimately, there was I think there was, I don't know, off the top of my head, I can't remember, maybe 1,500 parcels that were non-taxable. Most of them are government, so they were pretty simple. There's some veterans, they were pretty simple, but the nonprofits is where they were lacking the backup data information, where our contractor cannot verify through our process to say, okay, they're legitimately non-taxable, until they can get that information from the county. And the county is like, well, they got to go out and get it. Which, at the end of the day, this is a really good result because we found an issue through this test process that wouldn't have been identified. So we identified it, and the assessor's office and the solicitor's office in the county has been very helpful to try and address this issue.
Right, I think it's a great reminder of the collaboration that we have, not just with the county, but also the school district. And this is a shared service, right? The work that we're doing, that we're frankly paying for, is if we are able to find nonprofits that should be paying, that's going to help all of the taxing bodies. In terms of your question, Mr. Schuster, that we're not sure when this would happen. It'll Rudolph Clark would be working with the litigation piece of this as well. So I wouldn't anticipate that in 2025 we would necessarily see tax receipts coming in. But we certainly hope that over time we would be able to tax those entities successfully.
Yeah, with us being put on hold with them, that doesn't affect the contract? We're contracted for
It's
the
not on
work, not
hold,
the
it's
timeline?
part of the process.
Yeah, well,
Correct.
it's
We're
delayed
still under
because of this
contract.
issue, yeah.
I
But there
mean,
is no
it's-
term, I don't think on, maybe, I don't know if there's a contract term. If it is, probably maybe 3 years or something, I have to see, but yeah.
So yeah, that's what I was asking. So the delay that we found, and everybody found it as part of the process, I understand that. It doesn't affect anything with the contract with Rudolph Clark?
No, not Rudolph Clark. If in a way, they're kind of disappointed because they want to keep this project moving forward. Yeah, the attorney that's on this, Attorney Alex Glassman, is really, he's really good on this, and he's kind of bummed out every time I talk to him, because he had plans. These are all messed up on what I wanted to do. He was actually hoping to wrap this up around this time of the year. Yeah.
Gotcha, thank you. And I'm glad that you said, the collaboration with the district and the county. Going back to the payroll prep tax, we get our, the figures that come out for our yearly, how we're doing in a quarter and the updates. And maybe this is a question for Mr. Domines. Well, that collaboration that we made with the county, with the school district specifically, when we looked at this payroll prep tax back in 2015, we said $2.4 million should be the collection. It looks like we've hit the 2.4. It looks like we've exceeded the 2.4 in 2022, in 2023. Now we don't have everything in yet, but I'm sure it's probably on pace to meet
Yeah.
those expectations. And this year we're seeing it move to 2.7 million in collections. So obviously we're getting there. I know questions have arisen in council, and I know these taxes come in intermittently, and it's hard for us to keep track until we see the final year to date. On page 1 of the 2025 operating budget, it has the current payroll prep tax, and it has the 2022 actuals, 2023, 2024. Those numbers, they don't seem to add up. They're not the same numbers as council
Right.
gets in our updates. So,
Right, well, 2022, in 2022 and 2023, especially 2023, there was actually prior years included in that. That's when we broke it out for this year in the 2024 budget. So that's why the 2023 number is a little bit higher. The numbers that we have this year are more on track because we had them break it out, and I have Berkhammer breaking it out by tax, penalty, and interest now, as you see on the report.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to get it down to the detail.
Yeah.
But that's why they were higher, because they were aggregating the prior year's collections, so we didn't have a line item for that.
So yeah, when I'm looking at that line item in the budget, I see 2022, it's 1,305,122.
Right.
And I know the actuals that we got, I mean, 2022, we have, well, it's the total. So you have the tax, you have the penalty, you have the interest. The tax, it looks like 2.9 million, and the total ends up being 3 million. So the number's off quite a bit. Am I missing something there? Just for council's,
You're talking about the 1.3?
yeah, the 1.3 on page 1.
That was the first year of the collections. And, there was a lot that was missed. As the mayor mentioned, the collection procedure on this, on getting everybody up to speed on this, we did a lot of work. I think after 2 years, we're basically hitting our targets of $600,000 per quarter. But that year, there wasn't a lot of payment on that because it was a new tax. And a lot of it got collected in 2023, which is showing up in 2023, which we didn't have a breakout for a line item on the prior years on that, which is why I think that.
Yeah, that's why, just for clarification for us,
Yeah.
because I know every time we get the updates, we look at it and the numbers aren't quite right, or they're not caught up yet.
Yeah.
And I know we're collecting.
The thing is, too, you got to remember, these are recorded, like, what we do, the last payment for PPT is not due until the following year.
Yep.
So then it's got to be put back. So you're always kind of a quarter behind. Now we have 2 full quarters in that number you see there. Now, and again, this is only through September, with the September number of the 1.2. But again, that's your 600,000 being hit. As on that paper, 11/30 is the deadline for the third quarter where the payments are due. So that'll go up, but then we won't get it, then we'll pace it back. So you're always a little bit behind on
Yeah.
that, which is, to me, it makes more sense because it doesn't show the true actual, but when you finish up at the year, that will be there. I said, and this is a work in process, I guess, since we started this in 2022. But I think we've come a long way on addressing the issues on getting this where the accounting and what's coming in is, what you have there, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
That's accurate,
Yeah, so as I'm looking at this year's budget and I see those 2022 actuals, it's 1.3. But how it's broken out here, you break it out into the years as it catches up with itself.
And don't
Right.
forget that first year, the school district was still collecting the BP Merck, so I think that led to a lot of people confused
Yeah.
about collection.
Okay.
Yeah. And we did a lot of information, a lot of delinquent with Berkhammer, and the mayor mentioned, the school district and me, and then the legal office. But Berkhammer has really been the lead horse on this, sending out letters. And they've, a lot of work to attributing to getting this collection up to them is really to Berkhammer too. Staying on top of them, and Jim Hunt's been great to work with.
Okay. But budgetarily, when we look at the 2025 budget, that's how the money comes in, and that's how it's placed
That's what
per
we're
year.
expecting, yeah.
And the update that we get is just showing us where it is per year, just an easier to read document?
Excuse me?
This is just an easier to read document to see what's coming in per year, but budgetarily, it actually comes in as
Right.
it is in the 2025 budget.
Right, that's what we're expecting in 2025 is 2.7 million actual, and then in prior years, 520,000. Yeah, and they'll go down a little bit because we did a lot of back collection this year on PPT, and we do have some, again, Berkhammer, we have a couple of cases out there in front of magistrates and courts now collecting delinquent PPTs going back to 2022. So, yeah, we're staying on top, yeah.
Okay.
Just the last piece on this
Sorry.
slide, is the improved earned interest. Business Administrator Cipriani has done an incredible job of reviewing all of our accounts with the different financial institutions that we hold funds with, and has gotten us to over $1 million interest just this calendar year. So that's a huge improvement and huge kudos to her. In terms of another pieces, we, as you all know, have gotten not just an investment grade credit rating, but an improved one in May, where we've already seen a $2 million savings in our bond refinancing that we did earlier this spring. It's unclear what we would have saved without the upgrade, but we certainly saved significantly more in that transaction because of the credit rating. We also see continued healthcare savings. Healthcare costs are always going to go up. That is like death and taxes, but we have worked very, very hard since day one, not just on the finance team here, but also with our labor council and our Willis Towers Watson, our third-party administrator, to work on how we can find cost savings in an environment where healthcare is always going to go up. You guys, we worked with you very hard over the fall with the capital budget. Thank you for that. Eileen and Matt both have done so much to get the capital fund started and then have the capital budget be far more easy to follow and more transparent for you all and the public as we go forward. So that is a big improvement. We are also continuing to fund our legacy costs. So the OPEB trust that we started last year, to be fair, or 22, I think legislation in 22 opened the account in 23. I think $200,000 went into that in 2024. We're upping that to $300,000 in 2025. Now, we all know that the liabilities there are over $100 million. So it's not that we're able to solve the issue today, but every single thing we do that is a step in the right direction is important. Having that trust, having a dedicated line item, and adding to it as best we possibly can is very important. Those are legacy costs that many cities like ours have, but we've got a plan for the future. In addition, on the pension side, those legacy costs, responsible pension management, we have been able to reduce the discount rate, the assumed discount rate. So we had an assumption there of 7.25%. We've been able to now put in a 6.5% assumption, much more realistic in terms of what returns might be on our pension investments. That's another way that we can save money going forward. When people are looking, S&P or the credit rating agencies, bondholders are looking at us. They're looking for things like that. So it's a very good indication of what we've been able to do and the financial stewardship of our team. You also see in the budget that we're trying to bake in more maintenance in terms of our investments in things like pools, especially making sure that we are covering the future as best we can when we're doing new things. We know from the rescue plan, it's been very important to all of us that we haven't started things we can't continue. We haven't, started a new service that will have to stop, in December because the rescue plan money runs out. The maintenance pieces of the things that we're doing are important, so that's a big part of the expenditures on that side. In terms of...
So before we move from
Yeah.
pensions, I mean, a big part of this budget is the reduction in what we're paying into the city pension. It's 8.6 less this year than it's been in the previous year. Can you just explain that out a little bit, how how we're doing that with the pensions?
With the 8.6?
Yes.
How it happened, or?
Yeah, if you could just explain that so
Yeah.
it's understood.
From our understanding is that there was a amortization done for 40 years that started in 1984. Certain municipalities across the Commonwealth, that the state made them do an amortization of the pensions, and December 31st of this year is the end of that. So that amortization comes off the pension calculations, which is leading to the reduction this year. So, and then we're using some of that savings to decrease the discount rate, which the mayor mentioned is, something that has been advised by all the advisors that we have on the pension board and everything. But it helps too with the market fluctuations too, because with a more realistic return rate of 6.5%, when the market goes up or down, we don't get like we got hit in 2020, where we went from about 130 million down to 97, because that's based on our 7.25. The closer you are to realized returns, the less fluctuation we have from the market, which is good for the pension plan. And I think T.J. Anderson told me that PFM told him that our return last year on the pension was 6.3%. So we're pretty much right spot on. So this is really good. Yeah.
So in terms of public safety, Chief Carroll will be here next week, and we'll go into further detail, but we wanted to highlight $1.5 million invested in equipment and technology, increasing funding for training, improving our testing procedures. This year, we've had 3 tests. That's more than we were able to have in previous years. And we've seen a very positive trend in recruitment, where we have people have always wanted to be police officers in Scranton, but we see much more success here in Scranton than I hear from fellow mayors of mine across the Commonwealth and across the country. People do want to work here. We have an excellent department, and it's really important that we have that access to the testing itself, and the frequency of that testing is really important, while maintaining our very high standard in terms of those test scores, high standard in terms of background checks and interviews. So we're very proud of that. And that goes into proposing those 5 provisional officers. We wouldn't propose new officers if we didn't think we could recruit. We're confident we can recruit for that, and that'll help add to our force. So we'll continue to also build on the technology piece. We appreciated, Council, you working with us to add another IT position to focus on public safety during this 2024 budget year. Jack Rieger in the IT department has been just incredible, working with Chief Carroll to improve to all elements of our technology, and that's been great for everyone's safety, including, of course, our officers. We also have increased community engagement. We've got, you'll hear more about this in the coming hearings, but just our partnerships across the board have really blossomed over the last couple of years, especially, and PD is very much involved in that. As you know, we just entered into an agreement with Social Contract to explore what a group violence intervention program could look like in Scranton. That's in partnership with the county. Commissioners McGloin and Gahan have worked with us on that. We're co-funding that with rescue plan funds, which is really exciting. And Social Contract will start to have those conversations very soon, and we're looking forward to that. And just generally, of course, you see in real time the agency partnerships at the state, federal, local level. Chief Carroll and the whole department have just incredible relationships there. And the more that we're able to work with those partners, the better, the quicker their response. And I think you see that we're already doing very well on that front. But any additional investment we can make is good. And again, those partnerships with the county and the school district, you think about the school district, the SROs, it's extremely important for all of us here in Scranton. Quickly on fire, $1 million investment, including state-of-the-art reporting system, which greater efficiencies in dispatching is always good, and multiple vehicles, including a new special ops van and ladder truck 4. So continuing, again, to make those investments, but also be very cognizant of maintenance costs for these things and baking those into the expenditures that we have in the budget. Also on the safety side, road safety. So we want to make sure that we are matching our investment in our police and our fire and our DPW, our code enforcement with specifically traffic safety. So we were able to work within the contract negotiations with the clerical union to realign the complement within the DPW of the traffic team. So we've seen increased people in DPW working specifically on traffic maintenance, signalization, crosswalks, the whole 9 yards. You guys know that, which is very, very important to all of us. So we've seen nearly 1,000 street signs replaced just this year. That's in addition to the many thousands already in the previous years. Almost 200 crosswalks completed this year. And then pave cuts, we, as you all know, have been working on really reconfiguring how we address those. We are seeing, and we're going to continue to see improvements on that end. So the pave cut process will get better, and we need it because we have so much investment going into the city, a lot of broadband work, a lot of road and bridge work, so we need to make sure that those roads get repaved, not just efficiently, but very well. And just generally in terms of grants, we are aggressively pursuing any traffic safety grants, Safe Streets, whether it's Safe Streets for All, we were not successful, but we're going to fire it up again. It's, the streetscapes, of course, we have those big investments going, and the multimodals at the state level, very important. We're often successful with those, but also smaller ones too, the RLE grants in different ways, anything that we can do to apply for those road safety grants, those Vision Zero types of grants, we will do.
So while we're on those three things, first, police and fire, the total difference for the department, police is down 2.1 and fire is down 5.5.
So that's because of the capital budget. So
In the MMO.
MMO is a big one.
Okay. So that comes out of that. I mean, they're the big ones there. So the 8.6 million there, all of those capital, there's two pieces of capital funding that are removed, although they are expenditures, correct?
Yeah, and one thing that the mayor mentioned about the capital budget, there is a transfer in here of $3.7 million from the operating budget to the capital reserve fund, and that came about at the time we found out about the MMO, because we were really planning on doing a borrowing, but the revenue was there, so put it in, so we have 3.7 going into that, which is great, and the capital reserve spending plan is another issue, but we look forward to that working. I think this is going to work really good. That's the big issue about this budget is there's no capital expenditures in here because they are now in the capital. This is really more of an operating budget now.
Right,
Yes,
so that's where
so-
you'll see top line numbers will look smaller because that
So that's
capital
pieces
is in
coming
a
out of each of
separate-
those. So you have the MMO for the city pensions, you have the capital expenditures, and then that general equipment piece that's also part of that capital expenditures.
Right, if you
That's coming
take
out.
those pieces out of the equation,
Yep.
the operating budget would actually increase.
And the revenue loss from the real estate, that's almost $1 million, $835,000. So that had to be made up. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, now we get into the pave cut piece. So we have it's $500,000 for the contract for the third-party inspector. And we also have on the revenue side, we have $500,000 coming in there. Now, does that third-party inspector bring in that $500,000 that pays
So
for itself?
that's an estimate based on the amount of pave cuts that we had historically. So that could vary. So what will happen is, so we will change our methodology. So our methodology has been measuring, right? So 2 by 2 square, and that's how we charged. Our methodology will be now time for inspections. So the third party would inspect. So the third party would get the PA1 call, go out, inspect the scene prior to work, then inspect as they're doing the work and inspect the completed part of it. So there'll be an administrative fee that say it's Pennsylvania American Water would pay. There's also a review, an engineering review if one is required. Not one is not required on every project. It would see how extensive it is. And then there would be the fee that would be charged by the third party for inspection. That inspection fee will just be a pass-through. So the only pieces of revenue that we would truly see would be the administrative fee, because as you know, we can't make money in the process. So this would be
So we're seeing that historical revenue. It's going to be revenue because it's money coming in, so we have to describe it as revenue.
Right.
So it's going to be, we're saying historically it's about 500,000. We're expecting it to be the same, and that's the cost of our company, so the third-party inspector, so we're just breaking even with that as we need to.
Right. But, really, we truly need this. There's been a lot of work on our streets, and obviously it's not been done up to the standards that it should be done. So we want to make sure that by having this more professionalized way of doing this with inspectors that, have engineering backgrounds, and the company, I know we've sent the contract to you, I believe, already. They have an extensive organization, and they actually are one of the subs that do all the PennDOT inspections. So we are, very happy and confident.
Okay. So now when it comes, I guess the last piece is, we're talking about those expenditures, with the 8.6 that were in reduction with the pensions, the 2.1 and the 1.4 with the capital that has been pulled out of there, and then there's the road resurfacing. They're pretty much the big line items that have come out of that piece of the budget. Are we going to go down $2 million in road resurfacing this year, or?
It's in the capital budget.
Okay, that's also a piece of the capital.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
So just real quick with the pave cut fees. So it's a new process, and I appreciate it. And so was there any negotiation with the utility companies? Because they're going to be paying more, obviously, right? And was there negotiations, or was?
We've actually met with the water company and UGI to talk through this. When we redid the permit process in OpenGov, they actually came in and went through it with us. It's actually to their advantage, because what ends up happening now is a subcontractor of theirs will do an inadequate job, and then they have to go back out and redo it. So it's to everybody's advantage that it's done right the first time.
I wanted to highlight the partnerships that we have. We mentioned the HUP test. That's an important one. It will help the school district and the county as well. So that goes under the tax and finance collaboration. PPT implementation, already went through that. In terms of task forces, we've got the youth engagement, we've got hunger, we've got unsheltered, we've got arts. The school district has a seat at the table in all of those rooms. School resource officers, again, a very strong partnership there. And important to note that not every state has actual police officers in schools. I have colleagues across the country who live in states where that's not allowed. So it's really important to realize how fortunate we are here in Pennsylvania that we can have that type of partnership, and our police officers can be SROs in the schools. I think that's very important, and we, as you know, take that very seriously. Other pieces of shared services with the school district, as you know, we have a shared grant writer now, and we've been able to put in joint grant applications. That's a real-time, all-day, everyday collaboration with the district that we are excited about. And then, as you guys know from the legislation that you passed recently, we're even giving them a loaner refuse truck. So we're proud of that partnership. I'll end this segment on the infrastructure side with streetscapes. I mean, you all know we're investing many millions. Is it 12, 17? $15 million in streetscapes for the downtown. I mentioned continuing to look for grants and work on the traffic safety in the rest of the city. We know we're going to be able to do some work on Main Avenue. We'd like to do more on Pittston. We've tried for grants before for Pittston. We're going to keep at it with Pittston. That's something I've had some conversations already about. Stormwater, almost $25 million in stormwater investments throughout the city. We had a meeting at Kaiser Valley a couple weeks back, have a meeting coming up next week for the other projects, have continued to work on those pieces and invest. And again, without the rescue plan, that would just not be possible. So we are grateful for those funds and wish that we could have that again, but we'll probably be a while before we get that kind of federal funding. Parks, we've been able to have so many different investments in parks. We'll go to that in a minute. Before I do that, just reminding on the broadband piece, yes, traffic is a little bit annoying right now. I know we all feel it. A lot of that is bridge work. A lot of that is broadband work, but having ubiquitous broadband throughout the city of Scranton, our new partnership with Verizon is very exciting. That's going to deliver the type of internet access that everyone in Scranton needs and deserves. That's our kids, it's our seniors, so they can go to telehealth, have telehealth appointments from from their living rooms. It's very important, and again, the federal funding investment from the infrastructure law is critical to that. And lastly, City Hall, we are going to be very excited to invite you all to the unveiling, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 months, where we can enjoy the newly redone exterior of the City Hall. Not possible without those federal funds, but something that's critical to preserving this beautiful building. So we'll dive a little bit more into parks. As you know, we are currently looking for a parks director. We think we're closing in on a candidate. So I'll take the wheel on this one, and then we'll go on to economic development. So in terms of planning and design, the skate park is in the planning and design phase, as is Capouse Park and Splash Pad and the Grace Street Playground. So really excited for those, and excited to have that new feature of the skate park at Weston. At the implementation phase, Connell Park and Pool, Naog Pool, the Butterfly Park, the multi-court at Naog, Weston Park, and I'm sure you guys have recently driven by the Weston Field Pool Complex. It is going up quicker than expected, which is great. We are very grateful to Mother Nature for this long summer that we're having, because we've been able to get more work done on these pools. And we don't want to make any promises. Of course, we like to over-deliver, but we're hoping that we can do a lot of swimming coming up in summer of 2025. With really closing in on completing Robinson Park, Billy Barrett, the Center Street Living Alley downtown. Novembrino, of course, we have successfully put that beautiful playground in with the help of Friends of the Poor. North Scranton Mini Park, Connors Park, Oakmont, and the Pocket Park all completed, and with Robinson like almost done, Billy Barrett almost done. All told, it's going to be 17 parks projects, 2 new splash pads, 4 outdoor pools, rehabbing 3 of the 4, actually working on all of them, but 3 of them being rebuilt again from the ground up. 13 pickleball courts, fun, and a skate park.
Real quick on Novembrino, has that been resolved, the surface that keeps coming up, they're just peeled? That's
So
resolved.
the plan as we have it right now, we're probably going to remove that surface and just use the concrete, and then they would have to paint and put a coating on it.
Okay, that was my question as well. Is that included in the budget for 2025, or? where are
It
we
would be in
seeing
the
that
parks
cost come out
maintenance
of?
budget. It's out of warranty at this point.
Right, okay, thank you.
All right, so our Property Stabilization and Enhancement Team, or PSET, really rolls off the tongue. They have 3 focus areas: graffiti, blighted properties, and cleaning up city rights of way. Examples of that are, you can see the house before and after, but they have been only on the job for a brief period of time, but they've already been able to attack this. I feel for them and for Steve, our parks manager, because I am texting probably every 5 minutes in the mornings when I'm driving around the city with new things. But that's a real compliment to you, Council President Smurl, and to Bill King, that you guys proposed those 2 jobs last year, and now we're finally able to, we have people in those jobs that are out at work, and that's making a real difference. So I'm very pleased about that. Really important work, and we will be presenting council with some ordinance changes on the blight piece to enable us to more efficiently clean up some of these properties. The law department's working on that right now, so we're hoping to propose something to you this fall. In terms of the operating budget for parks, again, capital spending, we're able to see more of that, plan that better with our technology and with our improved team. Having the parks manager in addition to the director has been critical to being able to professionalize that department. It's important to note that we've got, additional staff salaries that includes more lifeguards to make sure that when we have all these pools and splash pads open, that we're able to run those safely. When we talk about maintenance and baking in maintenance costs, we're looking at almost $450,000 for pool maintenance, supplies, and of course, water. So that's an important piece to note. We'll also be expanding the summer camp program. That's a collaboration between the police department and the Parks Department. They did a pilot in 2024, like a mini pilot. We're going to do a larger pilot in the summer of 2025, so we're very excited about that, and the neighborhood families were excited too. And then this, full launch of the PSET team, 42 plus vacant lots maintained in September and October.
All right, so moving on to community development. The biggest news in community development is we've named an acting director, so that legislation will be coming your way if you don't already have it. Sherry Frabel has taken over as the acting director, so we're very, very excited to have Sherry in that role. So just some updates, general updates on code enforcement and our rental program. So we did put in during contract negotiations 2 housing inspector positions on the weekend. One of the individuals is currently hired and is just completing his training, so he will be out on the streets shortly. Contractor licenses and permits are both increased for 2024 over the 23 numbers, so we're continue to see positive growth and rehabbing of properties throughout the city. Our staff has done an excellent job with building permits, maintaining a 7.2-day turnaround for residential and a 2.8-day turnaround for UC exempt permits, well below the industry average for those. We're also continuing to send monthly code enforcement reports to City Council for your review. An update on the rental registration program. So if you recall, October of '23 is when we redid the ordinance to put more teeth into it and reestablish how we were doing it. So last year in 2023, we were able to identify, and for buildings for licenses, 1,192 rentals that equated to almost 4,000 rental units in the city. This year, we are up near almost 4,400 rental units that have been identified, and 1,648 different rental properties that we were able to put licenses out. So what this means to us, so last year, 156 units were identified as not paying their proper refuse fee. So that equated to, this year rather, it was $46,800 in rental fees that are refuse fees that we had found. That's on top of last year's $77,700. So by doing this project, we've identified units that were not paying their proper refuse fee for a total of almost $125,000 to date. Some other positives that have come out of the program is our rental staff are working hand in hand with our refuse staff, especially properties that are putting out excess garbage or cleanouts, so that they could be identified and we can send inspectors out if that's occurring. We're also working in tandem with the Housing Coalition to make sure that landlords and tenants understand their rights and their responsibilities. We've also recently partnered with the Housing Authority around Section 8 properties. So the Housing Authority is responsible for inspections of Section 8 properties. So their inspection standards are slightly different than ours, so we've been partnering with them, and our staff is going out in tandem with their staff to make sure that all of the units are safe and acceptable for people to live in. And the last piece that has been really exciting is we've given the police department access to Telemi, the software that we're using for rental. So when the police department goes out and has a nuisance call, and they do their work with the tenants to resolve the ongoing issue, they notify the rental department, and the rental department then sends out a letter to the property owner, so that they're working hand in hand to work through some of these issues with the nuisance properties.
I have a quick question about I'm thrilled with the 2 new housing inspector positions on the weekends, because we've got a bunch of complaints from residents, not weekly, but, so you said one's already working, right? Is this going to be like there's 2 inspectors that they rotate weekends, so there's coverage, or 2 out, or they, their schedule is, they have to work the weekends, or they rotate every other?
So they'll work Tuesday through Saturday.
Both of them?
Right. So when we negotiated the contract, so we had 10 inspectors, and that's where we're at. We had 1 open position, so we offered it to all the staff if anybody wanted it. So we have, the new person that we're hired off the street now is the weekend person. When the next opening we have, we'll hire another person. So we'll have 2 working on the weekends and 8 working during the week.
So since there's already one out there, have they experienced, the things that were brought to our attention? That there's some people doing some work on the weekends without permits or ripping roofs off or whatever? Are they experiencing that?
Well, as I said, they're just finishing their training period.
Oh, okay, I
so
thought
they
they were already
haven't
out there.
really,
So they're trained.
they
Okay,
haven't
that's
really
fine.
been out. We wanted to really make sure they're trained well because there won't be, a supervisor during the
Yeah,
day.
no one's around. Yeah, I get it.
Right, so we needed to make sure they were up to
I'm just
speed.
interested to see how, I'm
I
sure,
bet you
I'm sure
will-
it's going to be a positive thing, so, but.
100%, I think we will
Yeah,
see quite a bit.
I'm interested in the numbers, because I even see it myself,
Yeah.
driving around.
And maybe even the fact that once they know somebody's out there, that might reduce that.
That's a deterrent, yeah,
Right,
it
it's
should be a deterrent.
You said that person's Tuesday through Saturday. Will the second person work
They'll
on
do the same thing.
Sundays?
And we,
So no one on
Tuesday through
Sundays, just
Saturday.
the Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay.
So under economic development, the grant department in OECD last year applied for $25 million in grants, which is a phenomenal number and really a credit to them that they were able to put that many applications out. We've, through the Business Loan to Grant program, awarded $450,000 in loan to grant, and then 42,500 microgrants. These are actually, when you look back, are another driver in our earned income tax and PPT increases in the city. We've had 57 new businesses start this year, and as the mayor had mentioned, we're up to nearly 100 in the past 2 years. One of the other important roles that the staff does is we apply for grants on behalf of outside entities as the fiscal agent. So they are managing grants for entities, nonprofits, or other entities throughout the city. They have $1.3 million in Monroe County local share, $1.2 million in statewide LSA, and $34 million in RACP funding that they've been managing. The department also has a robust community engagement program. So they've hosted youth job fairs where they assisted 15 teenagers in obtaining work permits. Started and have continued on sprucing up Scranton, monthly events that are coordinated to have trash removal around city parks and around the community. Assisted in putting funds forward to the Pocket Park Live. That was $10,000 to create events in the newest park downtown. Beat the Heat program was the first ever event to gather supplies to help their neighbors deal with summer weather. And the continued very successful ongoing pop-up City Hall events where we bring services to the neighborhoods during the summer weekly and during the winter months on a monthly basis. We've also used this opportunity to help fight food insecurity with local nonprofits Indigo Spoon Foundation and Fork Over Love. They were able to provide over 700 meals during the course of the summer.
Let me add on that with the pop-ups. The school districts thanked us because they said that our pop-ups improved their registrations over the summer, that they often see a big rush the first week of school that is lessened, and they had a lot of registrations at our pop-ups where people got information for the school district. So again, it's starting to really work where we're out in the community more, the school district is out in the community more, we're all more on the ground in multiple languages able to provide those services, and it takes pressure off then the services in these government buildings and helps us have more capacity, helps the school district have more capacity.
So under the community development side as well, the home buyer program, which we've done for a number of years in the city, has been extremely successful. So last year they had 19 closings, investing $257,000 in HUD home funds in the program. In parks revitalization, what we've been able to do very effectively is stack grants that we've gotten primarily from the state with ARPA dollars, with CDBG dollars, to be able to do capital stacks. That $17 million that we've invested in parks is a combination of all those funding pots. So in next year, or actually currently in this year, $84,000 will go in Weston Park, which is ready to get rolling, and another $500,000 of CDBG money will be going to the Cap House project. We've also used the same methodology of capital stacking in streetscaping. So $364,000 of CDBG will go in West Scranton for handicap access curbs on a number of streets in that area of city. And also, we're going to use CDBG dollars to partner with ARPA dollars for the Cedar Avenue streetscaping project. And blight remediation. So maybe over the summer, we hired a new individual as the redevelopment coordinator, and we sat down with him and talked about how we could retool what we're doing in around the demolition program and the condemnation program and properties going to HAB. So this individual, along with the folks on our property stabilization and enhancement team, visited 500 properties throughout the city that were noted to be on our condemned property list. Of those, after they evaluated those properties, they've identified 161 properties, and they're going to be sent to the Blight Property Committee to review. And they'll review those to see if they're on a track for rehabilitation with working with some of our partners, whether UNC or NeighborWorks, or are they in a situation where they need to go on the demolition list? We'd put those out for bid to be demolished. It's sort of a total retooling of the way we were operating previously in that area. So the city's also working with our partners at the Redevelopment Authority to look at conservatorship. This is an initiative that Councilman Smurl had first suggested. It'll take a little bit of time for us to get underway, but I think it is a really great strategy to look at blighted properties in the city. The other piece that we've done in tandem with that is we've put $400,000 in the code enforcement budget for blight initiatives. So in addition to the conservatorship, what we'll be able to do with that is, you noticed a couple slides back when the mayor talked about the property stabilization team going in and cleaning up properties. So expenses around that property cleanup, we'll be able to use this funding for, but then turn around and lien the property owners so that ultimately, at some point in time when the property does sell, we would be able to recoup those funds. Also, we've had 120 requests for release from condemnation, which is a really nice number. We're excited that people are investing in the city, looking at rehabilitating homes and getting them back in good working order. A couple of the accomplishments that the OECD crew had listed. So they're just in the finishing stages of the Sustainability and Climate Action Plan. And that's a really important piece because, we've have a lot of stormwater projects that we are undertaking in the city, but we certainly don't have enough money to actually get to where we need to be with all the stormwater needs that we have. So this is another tool in the toolbox to help us to write grants and move ourselves forward in the future. 3 years ago, I guess at this point, we retooled the event application process in the city. Nearly 100 have gone through this year. Really, it has worked very well. It's really a seamless process. I mentioned about the code enforcement, the new hires. Our home ARPA dollars, which we have, that money will extend out to 2030 with $2.4 million. The first project underway is senior housing in a development called Scranton Square. So that was the first investment of the home ARPA dollars. North Scranton Revitalization is a project taken on by the Redevelopment Authority. They're working with Michael Baker International to evaluate that area of the city for redevelopment, economic development, housing. So that project is underway, and we're awaiting the report from that. And
Just quickly, back to the code enforcement weekend hires. So when they go out, or are they going out based on 311 calls, or?
the weekend hires?
Yeah, are they going out based on complaints, following up on complaints from the week?
During the weekend,
or just?
Yes. So if somebody had called and said, hey, we think something's going on, they could go out. But on the weekend, if they don't have calls, it would just be patrolling.
Okay.
Driving out.
Who is going to field those calls? Do we have someone that would field the calls on the weekend?
On the weekend, they would probably come in as an emergency, or we'll have them come right into the code enforcement inspector themselves.
Okay.
Stormwater buyouts, last piece on here. As you know, we applied for the BRIC grant. We made it through the first step in the funding process. Right now, we're waiting for FEMA to send us back additional packet of information where we have to to provide them additional data as we move along. So there's 19 properties in this pot. So we're grateful that we got into the second phase, and we'll continue to go through the process.
At this point in time, no property has been bought out, correct?
No. So until we get to a position where we're finally completely approved for funding, then we would go through the process. And it is a significant process. They had told us right from the get-go that 18 months is standard to get to that process, that point.
Now, are all of those homes in Kaiser Valley and in North Scranton?
Yes.
Okay, there's no other home in any other place where we need stormwater project to be that a house is on it? It's just homes that were damaged during the storm?
For the buyout piece, yes.
Okay, how do you know how many offhand are in
I think
Kaiser
it's
Valley?
19.
19 in Kaiser and any in North Scranton?
Altogether, it's 19.
Altogether. But do you know the breakdown of the two? How many houses in North Scranton compared to?
I do, but I don't
Kaiser Valley?
remember it off the top of my head right now. The
Okay.
majority of them are in Kaiser Valley.
Okay.
I think that's the end.
Eileen, I just have one question I saw for the expense of the water for the pools. I know there is you don't pay for the sewer like the other part if you separate meter it. We don't have drains on the pools. They evaporate or but getting filled. Is there, while we're under construction with all of these pools, can we find out if the Pennsylvania American Water would put a separate meter in just to fill the pools, and then we wouldn't pay pretty much double for the sewage part of it?
Right. We can look into, I do believe they are putting in separate meters for the pools. Now, that won't affect Connell because, Connell, we're rehabbing the existing pool.
Right, but if we do use a separate meter just to fill the pools, then we will not be paying the sewage part of that, which is a little bit higher. So if you're, $50,000 worth of water to fill the pools, we're paying $50,000, a little over 50 for the sewage part. I'd like to eliminate the sewage part and just pay for the water we're using, since we're not dumping it.
Right, we wouldn't be dumping it. It would generally be evaporation or children splashing it out of the
Right,
pool,
so-
unless we had to drain the pool for some reason.
It's called an irrigation meter. We've been talking about it the past couple of weeks. I'm trying to get information back from American Water. I've heard in other parts of the state, it's pretty common.
What was it called?
So I think it's called an irrigation line or where, normally, any water you take in is your billed for the sewage part of it. Any water that's turned on. This is a separate meter that you can irrigate and fill a pool with. If you have a sprinkler system that way. But supposedly, and I'm still waiting for them to get back to me, that they'll pay to install it, and then you have to pay for the hookup. I mean, they'll bring the line to your house, but then you...
Okay, we'll certainly,
And when we get that information, maybe you can get it quicker than me. I'd love to see it on the website, because people have asked me about it, residents, because they've heard of it too, and they're like, hey, I'm trying to clarify for some, so
okay, let me see what I can find out.
thank you.
All right, while we're on the pools, I know we have certain phases that are already funded. Can you tell us where we are with funding for the last phase of NAOG and what the plans are moving forward?
We were not successful in getting the redevelopment assistant grant or the LSA for phase 2 of NAOG, but we will keep at it. And we have, there are now 2 nonprofits essentially at NAOG, well, 3. There's the Rec Authority itself. We have the Electric City Fund with both historic preservation and parks accounts, so people can donate. That's through the Scranton Area Foundation. They can donate for buildings like this. One account, the other option is through our parks. And then I believe there's a new nonprofit, a third one essentially for NAOG, with Sam Kuchwara and Ed Davis at the helm, that is also, raising some money for some of the projects that those 2 individuals, in addition to Mr. Smurl, have been looking at doing for quite some time. So that's not to say that we are looking at those entities funding phase 2, but as we do continue to look for grants, especially at the state level for phase 2, we continue to try to be aggressive on how we might be able to get that started. But I do think we should set expectations generally as we look into 2025 and the next set of years, that the investment funds that we have seen from the federal and state level are likely to be less available given changes in administration at the federal level. So I think we need to just set our expectations that some of the investments we have been planning to make, and phase 2 of NAOG being and one of them, we just have to be patient. We're going to be aggressive, but we're also going to be cognizant of the changes that are coming.
All right, then, speaking of NAOG, the Butterfly Park, I know, is mostly funded. Can you tell us where we're at with that?
Yeah, met with the contractor this morning, so they have a notice to proceed, so they're going to do the PA1 call and get rolling. The equipment's already here in the city.
Okay, and then the final piece, you guys have the audit in hand?
It's close to in hand.
Okay, so it's not in hand yet.
Hopefully, we're shooting for the end of the month. I was talking with Dan Seafick today, and we did receive the parking authority audit last week, which was the last one we received, and I sent it off to them, so they've been incorporating it. The authority has a meeting scheduled for the 14th of this month with a special meeting. They'll adopt it formally, and hopefully, I actually got the corrective actions today, so I was reviewing some of those today. But hopefully by the end of the month, we should have it before council.
Okay,
I'm pretty confident in that.
do we think we'll have the audit before the budget?
Probably the same,
Probably the last
same time.
meeting of the month, yeah.
I'm thinking of last week, yeah. Probably the 26th, I think, is the last Tuesday. Yeah, because I was talking to Dan, and he's probably, hopefully the week of the 17th, definitely will have it for you for the 26th, you know, barring nothing comes up. But they're pretty much done. It's going through an internal review process now through CLA, which takes about, he said, 8 to 14 days.
Right, and the city's information has been in for probably 2 months
we were
now,
done.
yeah.
Yeah, we were done in early September. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Kudos to the BA's office and everyone, Tom Rainey and OECD, and who helped on that. You know, we did a lot of work between April and August to hit that target. But the best, I always said, it's bittersweet because with the SPA audit, we're removing the adverse opinion we get in our audit every year too. So it's worth the wait.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I have one quick question. So a couple slides back, you spoke to the task force. We have multiple residents coming past couple weeks asking about, you know, are they actively meeting? Are they taking minutes? I know that we requested, or you requested that at least the homeless ones start providing minutes, because we're not getting updates. So we need to respond to the public that asks us about them. Are you guys meeting, or how often, or is there a schedule, or?
We meet, I would say, every 2 to 3 months for each of all of the task forces. We met, I want to say October 3rd for unsheltered, and we're planning to meet again before the end of the year. So we can certainly provide an update for you.
With task force, is the youth engagement task force meeting?
Yes, we met, or you know what? I think we were supposed to meet last week, and we had some high-profile visitors in the city, and we pushed the meeting, I think, to later in the month.
Is that something that members have changed, or?
Excuse me?
Have members changed on that? I was on the youth engagement task force at some point in time, but I haven't had any updates in probably over a year.
You were on it originally?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll make sure that you get added back to that.
And then when it comes to the next meeting for the skate park, do you guys know the date on that one?
So they met with the folks that had been identified as sort of subject matter experts, we'll call them, folks that live in town that are skateboard enthusiasts. They presented them with a few different ideas about how to do that. So the group came back and sort of put their head together on what they'd like to see. So they're in the process of now refining that. So then we'll have another meeting on that.
Yeah, I did get some phone calls on that maybe a week or so ago. There's been several different changes in the plan, would you say? Where the layout, how the layout's going to be, where the playground's going to be, where the skate park's going to be.
So the playground is going to move. So the playground was always going to move as part of an OLRP grant that we had applied for.
Okay.
We applied for a C2P2 grant and an OLRP grant, both of which we were successful in getting. That would mean that we'd get a whole new playground there. So the feedback that we had heard from a lot of folks at the park was that they wanted to use the playground so that when their children were playing soccer on those soccer fields, that their younger children could be on the playground and they would be close by. So the idea would be to move that playground. So we demolished the garage, as you know, so then the playground will move as part of the skate park project.
Okay. I know some of the concerns from some of the residents were now the skate park was moving closer to the homes and the park was moving away from the homes, so children on the playground maybe wouldn't have eyes on them, whereas noisier skateboard wheels and jumps and things would be closer to the home, so just something to take into consideration.
Sure, we'll bring that up with the engineers.
I have a couple of parks
So
and
do we know
playgrounds.
when that meeting is going to be, though? The next
We
meeting?
don't have it set yet until we hear back from the engineers once they put the design back together.
Okay, thanks.
I just had a couple of also parks and playground questions. So I still have concerns over the splash pad at Novembrino, and I know that we're factoring in future maintenance costs for all the repairs and park improvements that we're making currently. Do we know how long before typically you would need to replace the surface for those splash pads, since now we're going to have several within the city, and if, that's going to be included into the
So the
maintenance
new
costs?
splash pad at Capaus will not have a surface, it'll be concrete, which probably should have happened with Novembrino, but that's not the way that was laid out. So what we've looked at building into every park project is ways to reduce maintenance going forward, whether it's the port in place or using a different surface with the splash pad, because we don't want to encounter that in the future.
And what about the surface for the butterfly park that's going to be at NAOG?
It'll be port in place.
Okay. And the other part, the other playground that's at NAOG, so I know the wooden one was removed, but then there's the other playground that's also kind of in disrepair and not in good shape. So do we have a plan for that one? Is that?
That's where the ongoing work with the rec authority comes in. So, we've got sometimes a mismatch between what our agreements say and what happens in practice, or what should happen, so we continue to work with the rec authority and the Parks Department to determine what the best path forward is.
Okay, so as of now, there's no plans on removing that one, just building the butterfly playground and then reevaluating? Okay.
Mr. Smurl, could I just close out quickly? So I think that with, there's so much that we could keep talking about. You'll hear from the directors, and then in more detail from Mr. Domines and Ms. Cipriani later on the BA pieces, on HR, on IT, and then the pieces under Eileen's purview. I just want to state how proud I am of our team and how much work goes on a daily basis here, from the work over many years to get the audit to the point where we're at, to the $80 million in projects that Eileen is managing, to the $1 million saved or added to our revenues by interest, because Eileen's been doing the work with our banking partners. Broadly, our S&P upgrade, I mean, that is many years of hard work and stewardship. The FEMA thing, you talk about stormwater buyouts. The work that has gone and will continue to go into those pieces, it is so complicated between Eileen, Sherry Frabel, Chief Judge, Morgan Fetzok, Tom Riley, our engineer. I mean, hours and hours and hours of work, very late nights going into those, because the deadline for that versus when the storm happened was very tight. The things that go into this, I mean, I just want to make sure that the public understands how hard this team is working. The IT department, Jack Rieger, has just done such a phenomenal job making us safer, keeping our police officers safe, our firefighters safe, all of our technology safe. So that piece is big. In terms of the law department, remember, we started out our tenure here, $184 million in potential legal liability. Solicitor escrow settled for $4 million. So it's a delta of $180 million to somebody who is a public servant who could be doing other things with her talents. So I just wanted to make sure that it's not lost how hard this team is working, how talented this team is, and how much I believe they should be compensated to the point that we can make it happen, especially in a year where we're not raising taxes. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good. We'll take a few minutes, and we'll come back.